The blood rushed to my fingertips, sending a tingling sensation as I held the key card to my own hotel, watching my sister block the entrance. My father's loud laughter echoed from within the grand lobby. The lobby I had designed, the hotel I owned, while I stood outside, like a stranger. "You don't seriously think you're coming in?" Vanessa said, her voice dripping with condescension. She straightened her designer dress, a knockoff I immediately recognized from the preliminary sketches my designer friend had shown me last week, then planted herself firmly in the doorway. "This is the Grand Azure, Ellie," she sneered. "The tasting menu alone costs more than you make in a month." If only she knew I had personally crafted that menu with our Michelin-starred chef. "He's my father too," I replied, my voice steadier than I anticipated. The small envelope in my clutch, containing the deed to a villa in Tuscany, one of the Grand Azure's exclusive properties, suddenly felt heavier. "My name is Eleanor. I'm 38 and a hospitality entrepreneur. This is the story of how I reclaim my rightful place at the table I actually own." "Mom and Dad were very clear," Vanessa continued, checking her reflection in the glass doors. "They only want successful people here, people who won't embarrass the family." The irony hit me like a punch. Just yesterday, I had approved a $100 million expansion for the Grand Azure chain. Today, I was apparently too much of an embarrassment to even enter my own hotel. I fought the urge to laugh at how absurd the situation was. 10 years ago, when I left the family's small accounting firm to pursue hospitality management, they had all but disowned me. My father's words echoed in my mind. "No daughter of mine is going to be a glorified waitress." So I let them believe I was struggling in restaurant management. Meanwhile, I had turned Azure Hospitality Group into one of the most successful luxury hotel chains in the country. The so-called glorified waitress now owned 35-star hotels across 3 continents. "Eleanor." My mother's sharp voice broke through my thoughts as she appeared behind Vanessa. "What are you doing here? We discussed this." No, they had discussed it. I had received a text from my mother earlier that morning. "Don't come to Dad's birthday. It's at the Grand Azure. You can't afford it. Don't embarrass us." "I brought a gift," I said softly, holding up the small envelope. "Oh, what is it?" "A gift card to Olive Garden." Vanessa laughed. "Or did you scrape together enough tips to buy him something from the mall?" My mother's eyes narrowed at my simple clutch. A handmade Italian leather piece that cost more than Vanessa's car. "Whatever it is, I'm sure your sister's gift is more fitting," she said. "She just made junior partner at her firm, you know." I knew. Just like I knew her firm was in talks to lease office space in one of my buildings, the lease they desperately needed but couldn't quite afford. My real estate division had sent me the report just yesterday. "Vanessa's doing so well," Mom continued, warming to her favorite subject. "New house in the suburbs, luxury car, wonderful fiancé with such great prospects." She paused, giving me a critical once-over. "And you, well, at least you're trying, I suppose." I thought about my penthouse overlooking Central Park, my collection of rare sports cars, and the private jet I had flown in on this morning. "Yes, Mom. At least I'm trying." "Speaking of trying," Vanessa smirked. "That dress, couldn't you have made more of an effort? This is the Grand Azure, not some diner." I ran my hand over the sophisticated black silk, custom-made by one of Paris's most exclusive designers. The same designer who had refused to make anything for Vanessa last month. A detail my stylist had casually mentioned during my last fitting. "It's what I could manage," I replied mildly. "Well, you can't come in," Vanessa declared, her tone final. "We've reserved the entire VIP floor. It's for family and distinguished guests only." The VIP floor. My VIP floor. The very one I meticulously redesigned last year, personally selecting every piece of artwork and crystal chandelier. I was genuinely curious about the guests in attendance, so I asked who they'd invited. "Oh, you wouldn't know them." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "The Andersons, they own that successful law firm. The Blackwoods, old money, you know. And Mr. Harrison from the bank. All very important people." I held back a smile. Thomas Anderson leased 3 of my properties. The Blackwoods had recently begged for a membership at my exclusive resort. And Mr. Harrison? His bank was currently seeking a substantial loan from my investment group. "Right," I said, Very important people. Exactly, Vanessa replied, clearly pleased that I understood my place. So, you see why you can't be here. What would people think if they knew Dad's failure of a daughter was serving their drinks? Vanessa, our mother scolded softly, though her eyes showed approval. Be nice. Eleanor made her choices. If she had stayed with the family firm, like you did, things would be different. The family firm that now occupied a modest office in one of my buildings, barely managing to cover the rent. My property manager sent me regular reports on all my tenants, including my family's struggling business. At that moment, my brother-in-law Gavin appeared, adjusting his tie. What's taking so long? Everyone's waiting for you. His eyes landed on me, and his face fell. Eleanor? Didn't expect to see you here. Clearly not, I replied. Gavin had just been promoted to vice president at his bank. Junior vice president, my mother added proudly. I corrected her without thinking. I knew his exact title because his bank handled some of my smaller accounts. My financial team sent me detailed reports on all our banking partners. Well, that's more impressive than whatever you're doing, Vanessa snapped. Assistant manager at some chain restaurant? I thought about the board meeting I'd left early this morning, where we discussed acquiring the very bank Gavin worked for. The paperwork was likely still on my desk upstairs in my private office. Something like that, I said. This is ridiculous, my mother declared. Eleanor, just go. You're making a scene. I'll tell your father you couldn't make it. Couldn't afford it, you mean? Vanessa added with a laugh. I looked past them toward the grand entrance of the hotel I had built from scratch. The marble floors I had chosen, the crystal chandeliers I had commissioned, the artwork I had personally curated. Every inch of it was mine. For a moment, I thought about walking away, letting them have their party, letting them continue with their delusions. But then I remembered what my first mentor had told me. Success means nothing if you can't stand up for yourself. My jaw tightened, and I straightened my shoulders, feeling the strength of everything I had accomplished without their support or approval. The tingling in my fingers faded, replaced by a sense of calm clarity. Actually, I said quietly, I think I'll stay. Before my mother could respond, the heavy glass door swung open, and Owen, my head of security, stepped out. He had been with me since I bought my first struggling hotel 7 years ago, and had helped turn it into the flagship of the Azure chain. Is everything all right here, Madam CEO? His voice carried across the entrance. Your usual table is ready, and Chef Michelle is holding the menu tasting for your approval. The quiet that followed was deafening. Vanessa's jaw dropped, her lipstick, once flawless, now seemed garish against her pale complexion. My mother clutched the brass door handle, seeking support. I smiled at Owen warmly. Perfect timing. My family had just been going on about how I couldn't possibly afford to dine here. Ma'am, Owen said, looking genuinely confused. But you own the entire hotel chain? Yes, I do. I turned to face my family, still frozen in shock. Shall we go inside? I believe you've reserved the VIP floor. I paused, adding with a smirk. My VIP floor, to be exact. Gavin was the first to speak, incredulity creeping into his voice. This is some kind of joke. You're just a restaurant manager? Actually, Owen chimed in smoothly. Miss Eleanor is the founder and CEO of Azure Hospitality Group. She owns all 35 Grand Azure hotels worldwide, as well as the resorts and restaurant chains. Vanessa's designer clutch fell from her grasp, crashing onto the marble floor. But that's impossible, she stammered. The Grand Azure is worth billions. I think that answers your comment about me not affording the tasting menu, I said, stepping past them into the lobby. The staff immediately stood straighter as I walked by. Good evening, Miss Eleanor, my front desk manager greeted. The executive suite is prepared for your father's birthday celebration. Thank you, Rachel. I turned back to my family, still standing at the door. Coming? I asked. They followed me in complete silence, each of them looking around, as though they were seeing the hotel for the first time. Every staff member we passed greeted me by name, each one showing the respect I had earned through years of hands-on leadership. But your dress, my mother finally managed, her gaze lingering on my simple black gown, as if seeing it for the first time. Custom made in Paris, around $30,000, I believe. I've developed a terrible habit of not checking price tags anymore. I led them to the private elevator, the one that required a special key, which I retrieved from my clutch. Unlike Vanessa's dress, I remarked casually, which I believe is a knockoff. The real Valentino collection hasn't been released yet. I know because I attended the private showing last month. The elevator doors opened directly into the VIP lounge, where my father's birthday celebration was in full swing. The room fell silent as we entered. Eleanor. My father stood up from his place at the head table, shock and confusion etched on his face. What are you doing here? Your mother said you couldn't afford it. I walked over to him, smiling. Happy birthday. I hope you don't mind me crashing the party at my own hotel. Your hotel. Mr. Harrison from the bank stepped forward, a look of relief spreading across his face. Miss Eleanor, I had no idea you were connected to Robert Thompson. We've been trying to secure a meeting with you for months about that loan. Eleanor owns the Grand Azure. Thomas Anderson interjected, eyes wide. My God, Robert, your daughter is the mysterious CEO who's been buying up prime real estate across the city. My father sank back into his chair, his color draining. All this time, we thought you were just a glorified waitress. I raised an eyebrow. Your words, from the day I left the family firm to pursue my dreams in hospitality. But why didn't you tell us? My mother demanded, still clutching her pearls as if they were a lifeline. Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You didn't believe in me 10 years ago when I needed your support. Why would I share my success with people who only measure worth by the size of someone's bank account? I paused, then added, though by that metric, I suppose I'm worth more than everyone in this room combined. Vanessa collapsed into a nearby chair, her face ashen. The villa in the south of France I tried to rent last summer. The one that was mysteriously unavailable? Mine, I confirmed. My property manager forwarded me your reservation request, not realizing the connection. I glanced at Gavin. Just like the office building your firm is struggling to lease. And the resort membership you've been waitlisted for, Mother. Eleanor. My father's voice trembled. Save it, I said, holding up my hand. I didn't reveal this to hurt you, though you've hurt me plenty over the years. I did it because I'm tired of hiding my success to spare your pride. I turned to address the room. Please enjoy the party. Everything is on the house. My house, I added before walking away. Then I paused and turned back. Oh, and Dad, that envelope Vanessa wouldn't let me give you? It's the deed to a villa in Tuscany, one of my most exclusive properties. Consider it a birthday gift from your failure of a daughter. The next hour was surreal. People who had ignored me at past family gatherings suddenly wanted to discuss business. The Blackwoods practically begged for a resort membership. Mr. Harrison cornered me about the loan. Throughout it all, my family sat in stunned silence. Vanessa's fiancé disappeared after realizing her guaranteed future partnership at her firm depended on a lease she couldn't afford in my building. Gavin kept making calls, probably updating his resume. My mother alternated between crying and trying to convince other guests that she'd always believed in my potential. As the evening drew to a close, I found my father alone on the terrace, staring out at the city lights. Those buildings, he said, pointing to the skyline. How many do you own? Enough, I replied, standing beside him. Including the family firm's building. He nodded slowly. I was wrong about you, Eleanor. So terribly wrong. Yes, I agreed. You were. Can you ever forgive us? I considered his question, thinking of the years of dismissal and condescension. Forgiveness isn't the issue, Dad. Respect is. You never respected my choices or believed in my abilities. You only respect success after it's proven. I smiled slightly. And now you can tell people your daughter owns the Grand Azure. That should satisfy your need for impressive dinner party conversation. I left him there, heading to my private office on the top floor. Tomorrow the family dynamic would change. Vanessa would no longer be the golden child. My mother would rewrite history, claiming she had always supported me. Gavin and his bank might face acquisition. But tonight, I had finally taken my seat at the table, one I built myself, in a room I owned, under a roof I paid for. And that was worth more than any amount of belated family approval.